Hey guys, it's Elizabeth from Elizabeth Books, and I'm here today to do my November wrap-up. I read quite a few books this second half of November, and I'll link below my mid-November wrap-up. If you guys haven't seen that, it's tied together with my October wrap-up because it was pretty short. But here are the books I read the rest of November. So first I read Trouble is a Friend of Mine by Stephanie Tromley, and this was okay. It was like a Sherlock Holmes type book. It really reminded me of Sherlock Holmes, like a younger version. It's about a girl who moves in with her mom in a new house, and she meets this boy named Digby, and he is like a wannabe Sherlock Holmes, like investigates murders and things, girls disappearing. His sister disappeared when he was younger, so he's always been into like helping the police solve crimes and stuff without them wanting his help type thing. So the humor and everything was just so over the top and just like very unrealistic that it reminded me of like Sherlock Holmes, because that's how he is, very like quirky, very out there, and like nobody really like gets him, and that's how Digby felt like to me. And the main character was just kind of boring, like he just didn't really care about her. But I liked Digby's part, but then at the same time I didn't like him just because he was just so unrealistic. So I gave it a 3 out of 5. It was enjoyable, but at the same time it wasn't. I don't know really how to explain that. Like I kind of wanted to give it no stars at the same time as giving it like 5 stars for parts I liked, and then just hated it. So yeah, I just gave it a 3 to be like, sure, it was okay, but there was things in it that weren't even explained by the end, so I don't know if this is a series or it was just very open-ended story, so it kind of felt pointless, parts of the plot. But yeah, so it was okay. And I picked up Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the illustrated edition, and I just really wanted to read this month. I haven't read Harry Potter. I felt like I hadn't read it for a few years, but I checked Goodreads and I read them all last February. So it's been almost 2 years since I read them. So I picked this one up, and I was just only going to read this one with its beautiful like illustrated pictures. But you can't just read one Harry Potter, so then I picked up the rest of the series and read them all one after the other because it's Harry Potter and I love them and I had to read all of them. So you know, I read Harry Potter, The Chamber of Secrets, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which is my absolute favorite of all time. I was so excited when I got to this one, and then when it was over I was so sad. I love this one. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and then Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. So yay, I read all of the Harry Potter books after that, and I loved them all, gave them all 5 stars. It's just nostalgia. Like, I don't think I can ever rate Harry Potter lower than 5 stars. Just because, like, it's such a big part of my life. It was, like, so much to me growing up. Harry Potter's been in my life since I was, like, 4 or 5 years old. My mom used to read it to me every time they came out. And so, when I read them to myself, I imagine, like, my mom's voice reading different parts because she did different voices for things. So, it's just a very good nostalgia feeling. And, I don't know, it just reminds me of my childhood and my family. And Harry Potter is just a big part of my life. And I love it. Very good rereading it. Now I know, like, every year these like illustrated books are going to come out, and I'm going to have to get new ones, and I'm going to reread it like every year. And the 5th book, oh my gosh, it's going to be huge. They're probably going to do like the 5th book part 1 and then part 2. We're going to be buying Harry Potter books for the next like 20 years, and I'm okay with that because I never really want Harry Potter to end. Next on my phone, ooh, look at this. Do you guys see this? Ooh, I don't know if you can tell, but it's like, this doesn't matter, but I had to show you. But anyway, so on my phone, I listened to The Diviners by Libba Bray, and I actually super liked it. It's in the 1920s, and it's these kids are playing with a Ouija board, and they bring back this ghost called Naughty John, and then it's about this girl named Evie, and about how she has to go to New York to live with her uncle because she's from Ohio, and she's caused some like scandal in her town, so she moves to New York, and they find like this murders are going on in New York, and Evie's very curious, very like nosy person, and she just wants to help investigate. Her uncle works at a museum, and for the like creepy natural like history museum, ghost museum type thing, and the police come to him for help with these murders, and so she's just like tags along and wants to help. And I really, really loved listening to it as an audiobook. It was amazing. Like, the person who did it, I'm not sure who it was, but the person who did like all different voices, they were amazing different voices. I loved them a lot. Like, she did, her boy voices weren't like over the top, and she did different like feminine voices, and I don't know. It was really good. I loved it. And I got the second one as an audiobook too to listen to now, because I was just going to read it, but after enjoying it so much as an audiobook, I really want to partake in the second one as an audiobook. And it was so creepy listening to it though, because it is about murder, so it is describing very scary like murder, torture-y, horrible scenes, and there's a song and it's like this Naughty John song, and oh my god, I like had it in my head and I couldn't sleep. There's like religious testaments that the Naughty John would say, and the narrator of this book did them so like fast and creepy, and it was just really scary, like imagining in my head what was going on. So I really enjoyed that audiobook. And then also on my phone, I listened to Everybody Sees the Ants by A.S. King. So I listened to another audiobook because I was just in an audiobook kick. I've actually started another one, but I haven't finished it this month. So this one was okay. A.S. King books are kind of weird for me. I really liked Please Ignore Vieira Dez, but I didn't like her book Ask the Passengers. So this is my third A.S. King book, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay for me. It was about a boy named Lucky, and his grandfather is a prisoner of war. Like, he was always missing. He was a missing prisoner of war. Lucky's father never even met his father, who is Lucky's grandfather, because he's always been a missing prisoner of war. When Lucky's grandmother is passing away, she tells Lucky that her husband is like missing and he needs to save him, and Lucky's just confused because he's like 7 years old and he's like, oh, I've always thought Grandpa was missing. And so then from that day on, when he dreams, he goes into these like magical realism dreams that he's actually like in the war zones helping his grandfather escape, and he'll wake up with like dirt on his hands, and like he'll be dirty, or he'll be like holding a harpoon, or like an air, you know, whatever was going on, that's what he'll be like holding, or what's happened in his dreams. So, and it's not really explained, so that's what, like, I don't really like magical realism books, because they're just really strange to me. And it was like called Everybody Sees the Ants, so it's like he just communicated with ants a lot, and he'd be like, oh, the ants are in the background like smoking cigarettes and doing this, and it was just kind of weird for me. I don't know. I like enjoyed it listening to it again, I think, because all the different voices and things, but it was also very strange, and it's about him being bullied and like how he overcomes a bully and stuff while like saving his grandfather in this magical realism. And I just never reread it or listen to it again or anything like that, and I don't think I'd really recommend it, because I really like prisoner of war type stories, because that's what it was mostly about, and I'm not very into that, so I did not really enjoy that part. Then I read Soundless by Richelle Mead. This is what was in my November Owl Crate box, and it was okay. Like, I gave it again a 3-star. None of these books were really blowing me away this second half of the month, besides Harry Potter. But you know, that doesn't count. So it was about a girl who, in this village in the mountains she lives in, she is deaf, and everybody else in this village is deaf, and some people are going blind, and they're running out of food, and so she and her friend in the village, they're not really friends, but they become friends on this like journey. They leave their village to go try to find food and try to find help, and so she leaves, and she finds out, like, you know, there's other people in the world, and her village isn't just like, they think they're like, you know, the only people kind of, besides the people who are sending them food, but you know, they come to find out there's more people in the world, and what's actually going on in their village is wrong. My problem with this book was that it was so short. It was like 230 pages, so literally everything was like, we went down the mountain, we were down the mountain, we found some people, we talked to the people, like, we ate food, the end. Like, you know, it was just very, everything happened, and it took 2 pages for everything to happen, and so nothing was exciting. And you know, like, there's relationships in the book, and it's formed very fast because there's only 200 pages of this book. So, and the problem at the end was like 5 pages and then it was over because there's 200 pages in this book. So it was okay. I just think it should have been 100 more pages to explain things better, more drama, more excitement. So it was very fast paced, so it took me like an hour to read this book. It just wasn't like long enough for my liking. Then for my monthly challenge, which was to read a series conclusion, which I guess I could have counted for reading all of Harry Potter, but I said I was going to read Dreams of God and Monsters by Laini Taylor. It's the 3rd book in her like Daughter of Smoke and Bone series. So I finished this book and I didn't like it really at all. I gave it 2 stars. I just read it to finish it. I loved that first book. The first book was so good to me. I almost gave it 5 stars. And then the second book I gave like 3 stars. I was just kind of like eh. And this one I like barely cared about anything. I was reading it and I was just like, all these new characters I didn't care about. And like really the first book, I loved Brimstone and the main character like Karu. They were my favorite, and less and less they happen in these books, in the 2nd and 3rd book, because of all the new characters, and I just didn't care as much. So I loved the first book, and I might reread that first book sometime down the road, but I will never read the 2nd and 3rd one again. And finally this month I read Why Not Me by Mindy Kaling. I got this book in my, I believe, October Pop Sugar box, and it's just a book talking about Mindy Kaling's life, and I've never read her first book, so I don't know like if it's continuation of other things she's talked about, but just her talking about like girl problems she's had and like being in a sorority, relationship, talking about her show The Mindy Project. And I mean, I don't really watch any of her shows, but I thought it was entertaining. She's very funny, so a lot of things were really funny. She did a lot of jokes that I found kind of offensive, so they weren't funny to me. And it was just really short. It took like an hour to read this, and I think it took like 45 minutes to read this. So, you know, it wasn't really anything special. It was just a cute little like, oh, tips about clothes. Oh, telling you about how she worked at the office. But maybe if I was like a diehard fan of her and cared more, it would have been more enjoyable, but I'm just kind of like, oh, I know she's funny. So it was an okay read, but I'd probably pass it on to someone who really liked her. But yeah, guys, those were the books I read this November. What are some books you read this November? Let me know below, and thank you guys so much for watching. Bye, guys.